One of these days I'm going to write something else to read, but right now I'm just still reading my book. Yay! Tonight I'm going to read something that I don't want to make anyone offended, but my book's a memoir, and so I am reporting the way my family was. And so if you write a memoir, you have to tell the truth or else don't write it. So if this offends anyone, then you're welcome to leave, but I won't be offended if you do, okay? All right. Can you hear me? This is called Fast Sunday. Fast Sunday is the first Sunday of each month. As an adult, I've learned that Mormons are supposed to fast Sunday evening meal and Sunday breakfast, or Saturday evening meal and Sunday breakfast, making a total of 24 hours. As a child, I only knew about the Sunday morning breakfast. I also didn't know why a fast was mandated. Members donate money they would spend on 2 meals to help needy ward members. Fast and testimony meeting culminates after Sunday school. Instead of the usual schedule of speakers and a musical number, ward members are given the floor to stand and bear their testimonies. These are short talks wherein members testify to the truthfulness of the church, its beliefs and practices. Fasting wasn't adhered to in my family because we all ate whenever we wanted to fix ourselves something. I often forgot about Fast Sunday until a 12-year-old deacon came to the house collecting fast offerings. Then Mama sent Mary or me to get change from Daddy's pants, which were draped over the bedroom rocking chair. Once after making the donations, Mama commented, "Mormons love to criticize Catholics for their adherence to religious ritual. Our religion is supposed to be free of it, but fasting once a month is a clear example of it. All meals in my house were what you might call fast food, and the daily treat was ice cream. Our deep freeze was full of it because Daddy bought huge containers like they have in ice cream shops. Sometimes late at night, Mary and I sneaked downstairs with tablespoons to eat directly out of the cartons. At times we found a third tablespoon there, and once we spied Daddy standing at the freezer eating ice cream. So we turned quickly and went back to bed before he could catch us. A couple of times a year, Daddy cooked, making enough to completely fill the chest freezer. He either made chili or vegetable beef soup. Daddy cooked with different spices like garlic, oregano, and sage, whereas Mama's food was bland, salty, and overcooked. A couple of Sunday evenings in the summer, we all, even Mama, went out and combed the ditch banks around Roosevelt for fresh asparagus. After washing it, Daddy cooked it up, a real treat and my favorite vegetable to this day. Our only family sit-down meal was Sunday dinner after church, with Mama at the helm. The menu was either a beef roast, or chicken and noodles. The roast was black from overcooking, and with it we ate rock-hard baked potatoes. Once Mary threw one at me and it raised a welt on my head. For vegetable, Mama served canned peas or string beans without condiments of any kind. I hated them at first, but learned to eat them with a lot of salt. Every other week, Mama alternated the roast dinner with a chicken meal. This was a boiled hen with spaghetti noodles, cooked until there was absolutely no broth. The noodles stuck together in big clumps and the chicken was tough as rawhide. Yet, I can still feel the excitement for Sunday dinner. We Blaines had our own sacred rituals that day, that were any that the Mormons could rival. Dinner began with Daddy saying the blessing, taking the scenic route, knowing we wanted to eat so badly. I pretended to close my eyes, but instead squinted to keep one eye on the roast. When he finally finished praying, he condescendingly sliced and served each of us a tiny portion of the meat and was delighted when we all responded as he expected with, "Is that all I get?" We all gulped as fast as we could, received more food, and debated who got the most until it was gone. Time for dessert. Ice cream, of course. As Mama got out the bowls, Daddy, loving the limelight, said, "None for me, Lorraine." Mary and I snickered because Daddy treasured ice cream right up there with pickled pig's feet and beef tongue. "Oh, you know you want it," Mama sneered, as she dished up all the heaping bowls. Sunday morning fast and testimony meeting was the very best. After communion, which we called sacrament, a member of the bishopric bore his testimony and turned the time over to members of the congregation to stand and do the same. At times we suffered a long and uncomfortable pause, but we knew we could count on Sister Winterton to begin. She was a large, imposing woman who sweat a lot. Her girdle may have been too tight because she gasped for air as she talked, and tears and sweat blended and dripped from her chin. After beginning with the usual, "I know the church is true," she launched into her various health problems and disputes with her husband, Harold, who sat beside her, never saying a word to anyone. Her trials and tribulations could be as simple as a persistent head cold, or Harold forgetting which day to put the trash out, or as complex a problem as appendicitis or cataracts. The outcome was always the same. She, Clarice, got through it all with the help of the Lord. Board members criticized Sister Winterton, but ended always with what a good heart she had. Testimonies from various children followed, with 3 or 4-year-olds standing and chanting, "I love my Heavenly Father and know the church is true." We often couldn't hear the kids' tiny voices, but we heard their mothers prompting them, telling them what they believed. Next, we were treated to the testimony of some old patriarch, like Brother Holmes, who went on intermittently about a particular scripture or doctrine. He used inflated words and complex arguments to make trivial points, and as he droned on, captivated by his own voice, I wondered if he'd memorized it all beforehand. However, he inevitably slipped into the vernacular. After praying about it, we come away and knowing more than ever that the church is true. I seen the other side, and it don't matter what nobody says, 'cause I know the truth. As good as this was, the ultimate treat was Sister Peterson, a retarded lady who bore her testimony last, and there was no topping it. I'm certain this monthly cleansing was what she lived for. She stood, tears running down her cheeks, loudly bawling out the most incomprehensive gibberish. The brother said, on and on, sputtering and wildly gesticulating. We kids ducked down between the pews, trying to stifle our laughter. Sister Peterson didn't quit the barrage until the bishop cut her off, standing up to close the meeting. One 4-verse hymn, sung in unison, and a standard Heavenly Father prayer, and we were done, free at last. Mary and I raced the 3 blocks home, our stomachs growling with anticipation. Dinner-time conversation was lively and consisted of poking fun of the meeting. Mama, ever the grammarian, critiqued the pompous old guy, saying, "Pontificating is like defecating, only with the mouth," she once pronounced. Mary and I could only focus on Sister Peterson and our impersonations of her, complete with slobbering and spitting, and sometimes it left us too exhausted to finish our dinner.
I could listen to Dianne all night.
Just go like that.
This,
Yeah, there you go. How's that? Is that good?
that was much easier than what I was trying to do. About 13 years ago, I was in grad school, and it seems like a really long time ago, but then I think about when I graduated from high school. Dr. Sinor taught a class that I will never forget, and it impacted the way I look at memoir. It's called Memoir and Trauma. And something that she said has stayed with me for the last 13 years. She said that we have this driving need to share our painful stories, not necessarily because it's going to heal us or make us forgive or forget, but because we need to testify and to share and to say, this is what happened. And so I'm going to share an essay that took about 5 years to write, that I'm ready to testify. Not in the same way that Dianne was talking about, but and there, just as a warning, there is a violent act in this essay, just for any sensitivity. Okay. I call it shelter. When winter days were long and the air thick with smoky inversion, too filthy for outdoor play, I packed up my young son and daughter and drove to the valley's animal shelter a mile past the county landfill. The county population's approach to its pets varied. The more progressive element advocated neutering, keeping pets inside, and following leash laws. They were the folk who dutifully took their dogs to the public dog park with plastic sacks for waste pickup. Then there were those who, for reasons ranging from finances to breeding aspirations to inconvenience, kept their pets unaltered, let their animals run free, and left them outside all year. The collection at the shelter then was an array of cats and dogs with the occasional rabbit or guinea pig, ranging in grooming, training, health, and temperament, much like the people of the valley. The dogs were kenneled in a separate section of the building from the cats, and the constant echo of barking felt manic and desperate, so I would direct the children to the cat room, where even in their small enclosures, the animals mostly slept, ate, or stared. My son and daughter talked to the cats, asking them their names as if one might answer. The younger cats would press to the bars of their pen, sneaking limbs through the bar gaps to bat at small fingers. The older ones would blink, unaffected. A sick one, oozing eyes and sneezing, would cower in the back. Every week, the animals might rotate. Some adopted, some moved in or out of medical isolation, and the children looked for familiar faces, as if they were searching out a friend in a classroom. I secretly did the same, and one day made eye contact with a recognizable female Siamese. Her eyes locked with mine, and without hesitation, I reached out. The cat pushed her head toward my hand, bumping into the thin bars. I stroked around the metal. She began to purr, rumbling unsteadily. "Would you like to take that one out of her pen?" asked the volunteer stationed in the room, and I nodded. The cat was solid in my arms as I lifted, and though she tensed as I angled to sit on a rusty folding chair, my petting calmed her, and I felt taut muscles relax. "Hello," I said, when the cat twisted her neck to see where the caresses were coming from. Satisfied, she rested her full weight on my lap. The decision to take her home was uncharacteristically spontaneous of me, the planner, the scheduler, the list maker, but I paid the adoption fee, filled out the forms, and waited for the volunteer who brought out a yowling cardboard box. On the drive home, I looked at my children in the rearview mirror, the box with its unhappy tenant between them. "What shall we call her?" I asked. My 2-year-old daughter said, "Cinderella." My 5-year-old son said, "Snow Pirate." Thinking about the moment when we locked eyes, I said, "Sophia, the wisest of all the saintly golden girls." The children agreed. At home, Sophia cowered under my son's bed for hours. "It's normal," I said. "Cats must have time to learn about a new home. Just let her figure this out. Don't force her. She'll get used to us." And it was true. Late that night, after the children had gone to bed, I heard a tentative meow and felt a soft body brush up against my arm. I placed my hand slowly, gently onto Sophia's head and felt that unsteady rumbling again from deep inside the solid body. The cat massaged her head into my leg before curling up beside me. My husband, a man in yet another unemployment phase, wasn't happy when he noticed Sophia the next day. "You didn't tell me you were bringing home a cat. How much was it?" "The adoption fee paid for neutering shots and other costs, so $80, I said. $80, he repeated. "Yes, I paid for it from my own account, so it's no big deal. I had it covered." "We don't have money for things like this," he countered. "I have a job, I'll budget," I said, holding back from mentioning his athletic season tickets and his motorhome, the latter brought home as a surprise to everyone but him. I chose to not repeat how every penny was carefully accounted for on my spreadsheet because someone had to do it. Placating was a better approach. Most other options backfired. Later that day when the cat bit him, drawing an angry streak of blood in the shape of jagged clawing, he pressed again. "It's not even a nice cat," he said. "You have to let her warm up to you. You can't grab. This is all so new to her." "She's a bitch. We have no extra money for cat food, and I can't have a violent animal around. I'll get rid of her if you don't." "Okay, I'll do it." I backed down, thinking about the kind of home he'd release her to. I didn't want her living through the winter outside. "It's $25 to surrender an animal at the shelter. I'll pay for it. Just give me time." My husband returned to his basement rituals, and I prepared dinner, the children helping to roll out crust for pot pies. Sophia circled below, the scent of chicken reaching her from the counter. I broke off a piece of chicken and held it over her, just out of her reach. She pulled her body up onto the weight of her two back legs and reached out, her claws snagging the chicken with surprising gentleness. "Can I try, Mom?" my son asked, and he too dangled a piece of meat, watching as the cat pulled up squirrel-like to snag it. "Me, Mom," my daughter insisted, and she tossed a chunk with her tiny arm that rolled under the cat's belly. She giggled, "Cat, see chicken, cat." Sophia circled, then found the lost prize. "She likes chicken, Mom," said my son. "I like chicken too." The next morning, I poured Friskies into a chip cereal bowl. When the bowl remained untouched several hours later, I peered under each bed, couch, and chair, calling her name. "Have you seen the cat?" I asked my boy. "No, I can help you look," he offered, and he said, "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty," mimicking my own call. My mind circled to unsure places, worried that an outside door, perhaps the garage, had been left open long enough for Sophia to escape and become lost. She wouldn't know where she was, and it was cold at night, the valley dipping below zero more than once that month. My husband came upstairs from a morning of filing for unemployment benefits and submitting resumes. "Have you seen the cat?" I asked, trying not to show any creeping alarm. He avoided my eyes. "I got rid of it. I told you I would." My stomach clenched. "What did you do?" "I got rid of it," he repeated. An odd lift in inflection with the word rid. My tone rose, the alarm fully remembered. "What did you do?" "It's gone. I killed it." "You?" "With a hammer." "You killed her?" "It bit me. You killed her. We couldn't afford it." "And so you killed her?" He still refused to meet my eyes. "Where is she?" I demanded, cold and clear. "I don't know. I threw it in a field somewhere." "You killed her." And I turned and saw my forgotten son standing behind me, his eyes wide on mine, confusion mixed with fear, and my mind flew to a frozen pasture, old corn stalks brown and bent, and I saw fur the color of dirty snow and lifeless eyes. First the icy Siamese blue, then the brown and green of my own. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, to my wide-eyed son, to the dead cat, to my empty self, to my oblivious daughter in the next room. And the next day, when the long winter was once again thick with smoky inversion, I opened a new spreadsheet on my laptop, sitting at a plastic booth while the children explored the restaurant's indoor playground. What would it take? I labeled each cell in the first column with the bills I'd have to pay on my own, the basic minimum budget to survive. Each month would demand the funds to provide for one adult and two children. Food, fuel, electricity, water, heat, shelter. Shelter would cost me the most. It always had. Thank you.
It was beautiful, thank you. This poem is called Submission to Calculus. I stare vacantly at the whiteboard, covered in numbers with no relation to each other, letters that don't spell out words, quite literally a different language. Den Catalaveno, Greek, I do not understand. I'm unsure of whether I don't understand because I don't understand, or because I expect to not understand, because I expect myself to do poorly. A harshly cyclical, self-fulfilling prophecy. I wonder if you can explain the feeling of failure in terms of numbers and variables, the stress reduced to a lowercase Greek letter, the endless hours spent only a number, the incorrect answers no more than a percentage, abstraction till it can't hurt me anymore. I consider various ways to pass exams, finding the test and memorizing the solutions, tiny sheets of notes rolled up within my pencil, formulaic tattoos of theorems I can never recall because they won't tell me I can't bring notes if the ink won't wash off. I consider dropping out, but I know what I want, and I know this is the only way to get there, and I know this is what I need to know, and I don't know if I will ever know it. I stare vacantly at the whiteboard as the professor explains things I don't understand, built on previous principles I don't remember, in a language I don't feel I will ever speak, and I can feel myself failing.